Good evening. It is Wednesday, June the 26th, 6 p.m. I would like to call to order the Board of Commissioners' regular workshop meeting. City Clerk, could you call the roll?
I'll handle that since the city clerk stepped away. So Mayor Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan. Here. Commissioner Kerr.
Here.
Commissioner Tagliarini. Okay. Roll call
Thank you.
completed.
Public comment. Public participation is encouraged. If you are addressing the commission, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record and the organization or group you represent. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes and do not include any topic on the agenda. Public comment on agenda items will be allowed when they come up. If you would like someone at the city to follow up on a comment or question made at the meeting, you may fill out a comment card with the contact information and give to the city manager. Comment cards are available at the back table in the commission chambers. Completing a comment card is not mandatory. Do we have any public comment? Please.
Good evening. Mike Bucci, resident 445 137th Avenue Circle, Madeira Beach. What I would like the City Commission to do is somehow to communicate to the state level of how the insurances are just getting out of hand. If we could just send a letter saying, can they do something about it? The flood insurances are going up, the homeowners' insurance are going up, the wind, hail, and everything is going, we've got to do something. At least send something and let them know that we're concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further public comment? With no further comment, we will move on to our first item, which is grant writer consultation.
I think Commissioner Kerr had
Yeah, I
mentioned.
can start on this one. With the city clerk's help, I actually attended a grant writing class, and just to try to understand what goes through writing grants. Where to find grants, how to fill out the materials. One of the first things that they brought up is that a typical successful grant takes anywhere between 150 to 200 hours. For us to lean on the staff to try to get grants for things in their departments, I think that's an overreach, and they're not trained in grant writing. It's my belief, after going through the grant writing process, that this is something that we either need to have in-house, which would pay for itself, I believe, and help bring the services that we need here to the city, and/or just have someone, like we do with our engineering contracts, that when we have a capital project that we would like to research grants, that we have someone that we've already contracted with to be able to do that, whether that's I don't know if that's set up as an hourly basis like an engineering contract would be, or how that would be structured, I'm not sure. But I think it's something that we need to take into consideration and bring to a regular meeting for a vote.
Do we have any public comment?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, staff, I remember maybe 10, 12 years ago, the city had a consultant that would go out and write grants. Forget the gentleman's name, but I'm sure if someone did some research, they could, maybe he's someone to talk to about that too, because I know he was successful in bringing grants to the city in the past. And that might have been 10 or 12 years ago, something like that. Thank you very much.
Do we have,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Do we have any further public comment?
I just wanted to mention that as part of the class, it was brought to my attention, there's so many resources that are available to a professional grant writer and their organizations that wouldn't necessarily be available to just city staff. And they have enough on their plates to do their jobs well. If they're writing grants, they're not, I don't know how they could do it without, competently or the best it can be.
Good evening. So we do have that in our consultant ongoing engineering services that we bid out this year. That is something that was added for that reason to ensure that we have that. And I have consulted with Colliers, which is who Jay has gone through. They've been given our capital improvement plan and went out to see if there was any grants available or upcoming that fit that plan. So it was a phased. Phase one was to go out and research, and then phase two, if we found grants, was to then start grant writing for us.
We also have, through the Florida League of Cities, they offer us a portal where there are grants. You can go in and search easily for grants for things that we would want. They also assist in the grant writing. That's part of our membership of the Florida League of Cities, as well as this morning at the Big C meeting, Representative Cheney was here, and she talked about the DEP and the opportunity for thousands of grants. And she actually listed a few grants that were out there and available that I took note of would be wonderful for our city, for parks and rec, open spaces. But she had stated to us, and she's a wonderful resource for our city. She does great things for us. She had said that if we went on to the DEP and looked through the opportunity for grants there, that she would assist us in getting those grants written. And often when you write for a grant, you need a recommendation letter, and she would provide that to us on any grant that we wanted to look into. So I think that using a grant writer often can be really fantastic. I also agree we should dig deeper into the resources that are out there and available to us to find grants that would suit us. A lot of grants often come with so many strings attached to them that it does not, it'll be, for instance, I was being told today about a grant that possibly we could get $500,000, but it's looking like it's going to cost us $700,000 to meet the requirements of the grant. So a lot of times the grants don't make sense because it costs you more to complete their requirements than what you would get, even though there are a lot of them out there. But I do think that we should have on an agenda in the future, I would like to see things where we could define things that we would like to see that would benefit the city, get input from the community of what residents would like to see us do in our city, and then we have a more targeted of what we're looking for to send Robin and the departments out to look into those portals and see if there's something available. So I agree, we should put something on an agenda.
You know, if Colliers, is that how you say it?
Colliers, yes.
That they, I would think if they have a grant writing staff, that they would know of the DEP
They do.
website, and they'll
And I can have them look
scour
into that
that.
further.
And, we have all of our capital improvement projects, and I know recently there was discussion about bringing the docks, the piers down at Johns Pass that I think that were rejected a few years back, but I'd like to bring those back for discussion, and if the board approves that, I think start looking for grants on all that. But
Absolutely.
it's so important. And,
Fully agree.
Great.
Thank you.
I have one question, and I mean, this would be, I guess, for Robin or Megan or anyone sitting at the back of the room. As a standard practice, when we have a project, do we already look for grants for those projects?
We do.
Yeah, yes. To add, the Florida League of Cities, their grant program, eCivis, now has a different name, but I did reach out to Jennifer Baumgartner, is the one who is our contact, so we're going to be going over. They do have an extensive list. Also, we did receive the information from Adriana from Reddington Beach from this morning's meeting, and there are a considerable number of, as you stated, Mayor, open space, land grant, Florida Forever grants, and just a variety that you can use for culture, recreation. DEP, the same, the Fish and Wildlife has some grants as well available for marina-related. And then also to add to the workshop discussion that we will have, probably either July or August, will be whether we can contract for specific grants. So Colliers, for example, may say, well, this is what might be available, or Jennifer with the league, the same. And then we may then look individually what might be the requirements. If it is a federal grant, it typically has more requirements than, well, not necessarily, but what I recall, especially any transportation grants, for example, are extremely, extremely voluminous. So that's where we can utilize a consultant or any type of, we'll look at every possibility, but we'll have a discussion. We'll bring back what's been available and what we are looking to apply probably over the next 2 to 4 months, and then go from there.
The grant writing for the city is very important. This morning with the Big C, our Representative Cheney said the money was out there. And right now is the time for the city to come together, get some of these grants and bring the money into Madeira Beach.
City Manager, we have on the agenda next the Snack Shack concession agreement, Second Amendment.
Yes, Mayor and Commission, as you are aware, we do have a concession agreement with United Park Service. They provide a variety of, food, beverage options across the street at Archibald Park at the concession area called the Snack Shack. We have had an agreement with them since 2019. That original agreement provided for an initial 2-year agreement followed with 2 additional 2-year agreements. The agreement was amended back in 2021. The commission approved a 3-year agreement with 1 additional year due to the COVID year and the closure and during that time period. We are now at the point as we approach the final renewal 2-year period for the agreement. The United Park Services has agreed to increase the base rent, the monthly rent that we receive by 5% is what we're proposing. Really all the other requirements would remain the same in the agreement. It would just increase the rent by 5%. No other significant changes at this point. Once the 2-year, as we approach the conclusion of the next 2 years, should it be approved, then we will proceed to issue a request for qualifications or for the next time period for the concession agreement. United Park Services is current on all payments, and they have complied with the agreement. I think they've been a very good partner with the city. Get many, many accolades from users at the Snack Shack. I walk by there almost every day myself. We've partnered for different events. I think even when we've brought any items to their attention, they pretty timely take care of them. And also Mark and Alan with United Park Services are here, should you have any questions specific to our concessionaire. But we'd be looking at a term beginning August 1st of this year through July 31st of 2026. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any public comment? Commissioners?
And the United Park Service is agreeable with this, I assume?
Yes.
And I don't have any comment other than I think it's reasonable, 5%. each year seems very reasonable.
I believe a lot of the citizens, the visitors are happy with the partnership we have. And so, yeah, definitely.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we originally went into this contract, did we go out to bid for it?
Yes,
So,
yes.
is there any need or thought that we should be doing that again? Or, I mean, most of the things that we do once, I'm not advocating it per se, but most of the things that we do, we RFP them,
Well, we
or
did.
RFQ them, I'm sorry.
We did for this one, and then the agreement was a 2-year term, then 2 subsequent 2-year terms.
2-year terms.
Due to COVID, a third year
Ended it.
was added. So we're exercising the final
The final
option
year.
in the current
So
agreement.
at the end of this, would they be looking at doing a?
We will
we
issue
would
an
go back
Yep.
out, and then that's,
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And one final thing, we did submit this to the U.S. National Park Service, and they, as long as the City Board of Commission approves it, they are fine with the extension.
I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, and we will bring this back for approval at the July 10th meeting. Thank you.
Our next agenda item is discussion on the resignation letter for former Mayor James Rostick.
And Mayor and Commission, as I've reviewed with each of you, we've gone over the items that were listed in the email. Over the time as they occurred, we've had many discussions. We've addressed all the issues that have been listed on there. There's really nothing else to add other than we obviously are here to provide the best possible municipal services every day, and we will continue to do that every day. And if any of you have any questions or anything related to that, I'd be happy to answer.
Do we have any public comment? With no public comment, Commission, I do not have any comments on the resignation. I felt like you addressed it to us, and I'm comfortable with that explanation.
I have some comments. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Rostek for his year of service. I think he brought some good change, some good ideas, some good discussion. That said, I'll say once I read his resignation email that he sent out to residents, I took offense. He took the opportunity to make some corruption accusations that I believe are unfounded, and I would ask Mr. Rostek to retract that. I've had an opportunity to sit down with the city manager and go over all the items that were addressed in his resignation email, all of which were taken to department heads, and that's his job. I mean, he relies on his directors, his supervisors. I don't expect him to be going out to city staff to enforce smoking policy. If it's a repeat action, then it's addressed per our handbook. As far as, I hear comments, and I've heard comments for years about the building permit department having favorites and selecting and giving some residents an okay to do things and looking beyond code violations where I don't see, I don't see that as true. Whenever these accusations come up, they're brought to the attention of that department, and they're, as far as I understand, they're refuted. And I support the city manager 100%. I think as we voted on recently to give him a 4-year extension on his contract, it doesn't come lightly. No one's perfect in their everyday life, jobs, whatnot. But I think Mr. Gomez is doing a fantastic job. And again, I call on Mr. Rostek to either retract or have a chance to wordsmith his comments at the end. I want this thing to die, so, but at least give him the opportunity. We live in a wonderful city. I work with a great commission, and the staff is wonderful. They take their responsibilities and their job and their commitment to the city. I mean, since I've been here, I've found that it's a family. And everyone is putting the city's best interest at heart. And I'm saddened that that this letter became public. If this is something that Mr. Rostek had a grievance on, he had an opportunity to bring every one of these items and put it on a workshop for the board to address. The mayor is one of 5. The difference between the mayor and any commission member is that he runs the meetings and he signs the documents. Or he or she, I'm sorry. But it's not his directive to administer anything. If he has an issue, let's talk about it. Let's bring it up to the board. Let's get public comment. And I support our city manager, Robin Gomez, 100%. Thank you.
I also agree with Commissioner Kerr. When I read the resignation letter, and to be totally transparent, I was very disappointed. Many times on this dais, I've heard what a great team we had, and everyone was working together. However, Madeira Beach must move forward and stay positive. Negativity only breeds negativity. We have 3.3 million visitors last year. We have a low crime rate here at Madeira Beach. We have many new employment opportunities. And I also agree with Commissioner Kerr and our mayor that City Manager Robin Gomez is doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
I do not want to speak to the resignation, but I would like to speak to when I campaigned to be a commissioner, I was asked what my agenda was. I do not sit up here with a personal agenda. My agenda, as I stated, was to get a kinder community. I stated it very clearly. I wanted people to get along. I wanted people to be kind to one another. If we are always looking in the rearview mirror, we cannot move forward. And we do have a fantastic community. I've spent the last several months shadowing every department in the city. I believe I have 2 more left to go. The last one will be the marina, which is the one I'm saving for last because I think it'll be the funnest. But in my time in shadowing each department, what I have been able to learn is a lot of times things that people in our community believe that the city is doing wrong or that it's corrupt or they're showing favorites. There's a lot of misinformation in what each department does in our city and what they're responsible for. It has been my pleasure to be on this commission. It has even more been my pleasure to be able to get to know the employees of the city and the managers and to work with Robin, to work with each and every head of department, to listen to the employees talk about how they love working in Madeira Beach and why good starts at the top. And when you have good leadership, you have good people. In October, we are going to have a Citizens University where the citizens of Madeira Beach can sign up to come and learn some of what I've learned in how the city truly works in the inside. And I really hope that when that gets announced officially, that there will be more people than they can hold in the meeting, and we will have to do multiple citizen universities. It's time for Madeira Beach to be united and heal and to quit looking for ways to tear each other down. That is all I have on that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to let everybody know, I apologize for being a couple minutes late to the workshop, but I was doing my duty of getting the application on the website. The city manager's administrative assistant helped me with that, and also I made copies for the back table. There's 20 applications on the back table, to just let you know.
Thank you.
Our next item is Community Development, the Madeira Beach Town Center Special Area Plan Amendments to C3, C4, R3 zoning districts.
Okay, and we have a presentation for this item. So Andrew's just pulling that up right now. So this will sound very similar to the Johns Pass Village zoning and what we've been talking about in that process as well. Let's pull up the presentation. There we go. Okay, so we'll be talking about the Madeira Beach Town Center Special Area Plan and how we need to make amendments to the land development regulations, looking at C3, C4, and R3 zoning districts. So this slide looks very similar. Locally, we look at the county's land regulations along with our local land regulations. So this is kind of how it works together. At the top, we had for Pinellas. They have their countywide plan, which includes their rules, their strategies. They have a map as well. And then locally, we have 2 different plans. We have our comprehensive plan, which also has a future land use element, a map, and then we have our code of ordinances, which is the land development regulations. That's where you have your zoning and then your corresponding zoning map. So similar to Johns Pass Village zoning, how we've been talking about that, those 3 different maps, those 3 different categories on every single land, every single parcel. So the area that we'll be talking about is the Madeira Beach Town Center area. So You can see that probably best in these two maps. This is our comprehensive plan, future land use map, this darker kind of indigo color, which is the planned redevelopment mixed use, which is PRMU. And then at the county level is this blue area, which is an activity center similar to Johns Pass Village. And then if you look over here at our zoning map, you can see a mix of different zones. So back in 2007, the comprehensive plan, that's one of our local plans, was amended to include that new use, that PRMU, future land use category. And then in '09, the activity center was created along on the countywide plan map. And then also this area was designated that PRMU. And then in 2014, there was a few amendments to that special area plan. Now locally, if you're thinking about Johns Pass Village, we had to have a special area plan. Activity centers must have a special area plan attached to it. That just kind of tells you how it works, how it functions, and then going forward, are there going to be any changes to the land development regulations like the zoning? So that's what we're doing in Johns Pass Village. It kind of stopped at that time at the city at it was 2009. So there are amendments in the special area plan that refers to, let's see, these different character districts. So this is in the special area plan. There's 6 different character districts. There's some regulations in the special area plan that were never brought over to the zoning. So that's what we are proposing, is bringing those regulations that were in the special area plan, bringing that over to the zoning, making sure everything corresponds. And this is also in your packet. It's page 115 and 116. Just see a slightly larger version of this map with all the character districts and then the standards that were written into the special area plan. So then comparing those standards with the zoning, as you can see, there's different zones in each character district. So what we have in your packet is a draft of version of bringing these standards that were in the special area plan into the zoning. And so this wouldn't change the land that is outside of this area. It would just say if you have the planned redevelopment mixed use land use, then your standards are as such. Or if you have the land use of planned redevelopment mixed use and you're within this character district, your standards are this. And you can kind of see that throughout the draft that we included. So that starts on page 70 of the packet. So it's really just cleaning up what should have been in the code back in the day. It just wasn't brought into the code. And then we did add a few small changes, including townhouses as a permitted use, and then also including open rooftop uses as special exception uses. I know we talked about that in Johns Pass Village a little bit, because right now we don't have that specified in our code. So that way, it wouldn't be just a by right thing. Anybody who wanted to use open rooftop uses would then have to go to the special magistrate. There would be a mailing that would go out prior to the hearing to all neighboring properties 300 feet.
Do we have any public comment?
Tom Edwards, District 1 resident. So I'm concerned about this special exception use for rooftop uses. It's for R3, which is residential, and you have multi-families there, and you're allowing a special magistrate to make a decision as if someone can have rooftop exception. It really should be coming to the commission on that. And it's almost like having a planned development. So usually with rooftop activity, you're talking about more noise in the residential area. So where is this coming from right now? Open rooftop uses. Why is the city making a decision to put something like that in there? If she can't answer. So anyways, this is something you might consider to inquire about that. Again, I think it should be coming to the commission if you're and not just to a special magistrate, so that you can have more input and you all make that decision just like you do with planned developments. Thank you.
Do we have any further public comment? With no public comment, commissioners?
Thanks, Jenny. I'm a bit confused. So on the map that you have there now, we're showing the different zoning sections. They would all be wiped out and replaced with the other map, the MBTC, or not, because you're showing both the zoning and the character district. I'm confused.
It's okay. It's very confusing, so.
So first question.
There
will-
would not be any map changes.
Okay.
All the maps would stay the same. These maps have been the same since, I think it was '09 when they created this activity center, Madeira Beach Town Center Activity Center. So it was adopted at the county level, and then it was adopted at our level, at the comprehensive plan level, but then it kind of just stopped. Some of the standards were not adopted into the land development regulations, like the zoning. So now we're going back, cleaning up areas that we've noticed should have been fixed and fixing them. So this is just putting those standards that were written back in '09, and then amended in 2014, bringing those over and putting them in the zoning.
Okay, so zoning isn't not changing,
Correct.
but the area will come under a
It's just amendments to the code
it'll
to bring in what was written in that special area plan and putting it in the land development regulations for the zoning.
Well, I mean, I
So-
see that the highlighted changes we have, like in R3 and what's brought up. I'm just trying to absorb, I guess, how the future land use map, the countywide map, and those districts. So in one way, it was suggested, okay, this is becoming a new district, or maybe defining the district, and then we'll have character districts
So,
inside of that.
Similar to the Johns Pass Village,
Similar to- yeah.
how it's one land use category in the comprehensive plan as well as the countywide plan. But then we have this other document that really tells you the things within that area, like the character districts. But then you look at a map and you don't see the character districts on the comprehensive plan. It's brought up similar to that, or it was created similar to that. So this map, here we go, this is a little larger. This map is within the Madeira Beach Town Center Special Area Plan, where
Okay.
you have those different character districts. And then these are the standards for those character districts. And so if you take this table, which is copy paste from that special area plan,
Right?
and then you look at our zoning, in some cases, they do not correspond. So that's what we're inputting into the zoning, saying, oh, if you are within this area, then your standards may be slightly different, and these are your standards. And these are the standards that we're putting in there. So let's take page 71, it's this second page, where we started the drafts. If you look at section 110-230, building site area requirements, you can see subsection 4, properties and resort facilities, medium future land use category of the comprehensive plan have a maximum density of, and what it is currently. So none of that's changing. And then properties in the plan redevelopment mixed use, which is this activity center area, have the following maximum densities, and then it's broken up into those character districts, and those densities are right here. So residential density 15 units, temporary lodging 60, floor area ratio ISR, and then you can see further on in this, it also talks about the height. And so just bringing all of those standards that are basically in the comprehensive plan and bringing it over to the zoning.
Okay, so R3 is basically on the beach and over where the townhomes are on your zoning map.
Let me go to,
Yeah.
so we have some of this property as well as
Okay,
in R3.
okay. Yep, across the,
So R3 right here, across the street from City Hall. And then on 150th, there's also R3. And then R3 is along the beach.
right, but then each of those is in a different character district.
Yeah, so you can see on this map below, it's in character district, the Causeway District. So we have some R3 properties in the Causeway Character District. We have some R3 property in the Peninsula District. And then we also have it, see in this yellow, the Beachfront District. So then if you go to page 72, you can see those character districts and then the standards in each.
So what are the character districts doing for us if it's not impacting the zoning? I'm just totally confused.
So it should have been written in the zoning. So I think what happened, I haven't done enough history of the past. I just know that this needs to get fixed. I think there was probably a consultant that put together the special area plan. Usually you have a consultant putting together the special area plan for cities, for these activity centers, and then they probably walked away thinking that the city would make these amendments. That never happened. So current staff found these inconsistencies. Hey, we need to fix this. So we have different standards in the comprehensive plan and the land development regulations. They need to correspond.
Okay, I mean, I
that's-
put my arms around special character, the
Yeah.
character districts, so that you can expect what's in same way with zoning, it all kind of goes hand in hand. I'm just trying to wrap my
There's a lot of moving parts.
head around it.
And we see it all the time, so it's, you know, it's, 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 We understand it, but I know that it's complicated. It's hard to explain. It's hard to wrap your mind around, especially if you're not looking at these things all the time.
So what are the big takeaways? I'm sorry, I don't mean,
That's okay.
what are the big takeaways? I know that, okay, we have, a lot of this is redlined, it's adding districts mainly. As was pointed out, it did, on the special exception uses, add open rooftop uses in the R3 area, which I'm sure we'll bring up and talk about in depth. I mean, this is just introducing us to this. we're not,
It is, yeah. And
has
you're
this been down
obviously
to as I say down, I shouldn't have said that. Has the planning commission reviewed this with you? Is this?
not yet. So it'll be going in July 1st.
Okay.
They'll be seeing the exact same thing.
So we're getting it now so that we can start asking a billion questions tomorrow. Because we'll
Just trying to get the ball rolling.
get it right.
You know,
The basic gist of it is to clean up what was there.
exactly. So these standards aren't new standards. They're living in our comprehensive plan. So it's not new. It's just bringing it from the comprehensive plan over to the land development regulations, which should have been done.
Is this part of what Kimley Horn will be addressing and talking about? And
No, but we told them that there was some inconsistencies that needed to be cleaned up in these documents. So they're aware of it, but it's not something that they're going to be focusing on
right.
right now.
Okay, we're having that meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock right here.
Yes, the master plan.
So
Be
invite.
exciting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I have no comment at this time.
Then we can move on to Johns Pass Village Activity Center zoning.
Okay, and tonight it starts on 173. We have a draft included in your packets. Starts at 175. And I don't have a presentation. I know that we've talked about this a lot. Just going on the basics, similar to the last item, there's 3 different maps, there's 3 different standards. So we have the countywide plan, we have our comprehensive plan, and then we have our zoning or code of ordinances or land development regulations. So Johns Pass Village has been changed to an activity center at the countywide plan. And then locally in the comprehensive plan, it's been changed to activity center. And now the last step is bringing all of that into the zoning. And so the zoning has more of your setbacks, your heights. It also has your uses, your intensities and densities. And so after our workshops, we put together a draft along with talking to Planning Commission as well as everybody up here and public input, and this is the draft that we have put together. So we just wanted to get any feedback from the commission or the public on this. This has already gone to Planning Commission. This draft has already gone to Planning Commission, and we plan to bring it back to Planning Commission. And then Ford Pinellas will also review this. Mr. Trask will also review this in detail. So before we start bringing up to the actual public hearings and rezoning of the area.
Do we have any public comment?
Chuck Dillon once again. Yes, basically, and that's what I guess we should have had this before. But what this is a preliminary. We're going to see it on the 1st. So we're going to dissect it, tear it all apart. And then what we either pass on, you guys might eventually see. But we'll go over all of that, John's Pass Village, as well as the zoning up here. So we're going to see it before you guys do and try to tear it apart as much as we can. No offense, Jenny, but more so, what I'm trying to concern about is owning land beyond the property to the CCL line. And this is something I'll be bringing up on our meeting, but you can build to the CCL line, but you don't own the property though. And so it's going to be getting into the next thing, which I'll be coming up with some documentation about how we are losing our beach. And I'm bringing this up under the Johns Pass Village stuff because we're about to be setting up all setbacks, height restrictions, and all those things that we're going to be deciphering before you guys will even see it. And we've had this Johns Pass Village in front of us for quite a while, and not stalling, but we're trying to tear it apart. And Jenny and them are doing a very good job, and they're taking all of our information and getting back to us at the following meetings and that. But one of my big thing is, once again, so do you own the land to the CCL? And it's not in the land surveys. But for tax purposes, we're potentially losing out of a lot of tax money. Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment? With no public comment, commission?
I look forward to looking this over again. Now, it'll come back to another workshop after the planning commission sees it, correct?
Yes, so planning commission will see it as a workshop, you'll see it next workshop. So you're gonna keep seeing this until, so you might be a little sick and tired of it by the end, but you're gonna keep seeing this. Exactly.
The wheels turn slow for a reason.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, and we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with it, and then we get a lot of public input, so that's also why it's taking a while, and then we need to have the county review it.
As it should.
Exactly. Get their blessing on it, make sure everything is done correctly.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny. Andrew, you guys have put in a lot of great work, you know. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, we're pretty proud of it, so, and it's very exciting
Yeah.
also.
It's a lot of hard work. Anything else? Okay. With that, we will move on to item C, Caddy's Public Beach.
So, Mayor and Commission, we had discussed this item a month ago. We said we'd be back on today, the 26th of June. Mr. Trask received the information from title search, et cetera. So we wanted to just provide that information and proceed from there.
So let's go back a little bit. A couple of months ago, there was a request to add something to the agenda, the workshop agenda, to discuss the Caddy's Beach. I really didn't know when it was originally put on the agenda what we were going to be discussing. Then it became clear to me that we were going to be discussing the alcoholic beverage permit that was issued to the Caddy's restaurant back in 2021. As some of you, I hope all of you have seen the video of that meeting, you could see that there was a lot of discussion about the conditions that were being imposed upon the Caddy's owners if they were in turn going to receive the alcoholic beverage permit. One of those items was item number 9. When the condition was originally provided in the memo from Linda Portal, the Community Development Director at the time, she had the following condition placed in the agenda packet. Item number 9, no chairs or tables supplied or contracted for supply by the applicant will be placed on the beach. Just prior to the meeting, there was a discussion evidently between Linda and the Caddy's representative about agreeing to all the conditions except for a request by Caddies to make sure that it was clear that the beach that was being referred to in paragraph 9 was not necessarily the private beach, but it was in fact the public beach. During that meeting, that was discussed as to what was going to be done with that condition. And in fact, the commission did approve the the alcoholic beverage permit with condition 9 reflecting that no chairs or tables supplied or contracted for supply by the applicant will be placed on the public beach. So then the question became, what exactly was the public beach? So as you remember at the last workshop, I told you that we had ordered a title search on both the Caddies property and the private beach area that was immediately west of the Caddies property to determine who actually owns that parcel. Two independent title companies reviewed that particular issue and came to the conclusion that that parcel was owned by the Caddies owners. And the reason that it was owned by Caddies was because of the fact that when it was originally platted, the plat provided that the lot on the plat was immediately adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico. That was in 1937. Since 1937, the sand started appearing and getting deeper and deeper, and it actually created this private beach parcel. There's a term for that. It's the term that that a real estate attorney calls it is, let me just get to it, is, I believe, accretion. So the question then becomes, okay, if all of this sandy beach was created, who owns it? Like I said, these two title underwriters determined that it was owned by the Caddies restaurant owners. And the reason being is that the only other entity that has a legal right to that beach was the state of Florida. And it was clear that the FDEP had took a position that it was not interested in this property. So when they passed on it, they don't assert a claim on it, then there is the ownership issue has been resolved, and that is that it's owned by Caddies. So I provided you with a survey that was prepared and some handwriting on it. The handwriting is mine, because I thought I was trying to be a little bit clearer as to what exactly we were talking about. So if you look in the agenda package, which is up on the monitor right now, you'll see where I've listed private platted parcel. That is the Caddies restaurant property. Immediately adjacent to it is all this sand that has appeared since 1937. I've labeled that the private beach parcel. Because of the fact that Caddies owns both of these parcels, the public beach does not begin until the mean high water line, which is in the bottom of the monitor, but it's in the packet reflected that. And at the mean high water line westward is actually the public beach. So the question then is does Caddies have the legal right, and is it a violation of condition number 9 that they place chairs on their own private property, which is, I've labeled here as the private beach parcel? Would that be a violation of the alcoholic beverage permit? And the answer is no, it's private property. So with that analysis being done, I don't really think that there's any other action that needs to take place. It was kind of like in the beginning when we were talking about this at a workshop, what are the rights and what aren't the rights? Well, it's clear now legally Caddies has the right to use its beach, its own property, to place chairs on it. Now, does that mean then that they can sell food and have the food, migrate out to the beach area? The answer is no, because the other conditions of the alcoholic beverage permit specifically address that. And I'm just going to refer back to the agenda packet from 2021. In condition number 2, it says the restaurant and associated activity will be located on existing impervious surface within the approved site plan area inside the coastal construction control line and will not impact the surrounding dunes or beach. So they are not allowed to serve people food or drinks on the private beach parcel because that does not fall within condition number 2 that was placed upon them. So I'm hoping that answers the questions that have been raised, but I would be happy to try to answer any others. But I want to make it absolutely clear, this is just not my opinion. It's 2 underwriting title companies and 2 lawyers other than me who have made that determination. So.
Do we have any public comment?
If you just want to make a comment, please come up to the podium and make a comment. Thank you.
I was just curious, if I go to the beach, I go sit in one of the chairs. Can I go up and get a beer and a burger and bring it to my chair? I understand that they can't serve out there, but it's more of a question, so I don't know if this is the right forum for that. Thank you.
Chuck Dillon, that's why I sat at the edge of the table. Well, according to Tom's things here, we don't own any beach because every property on Madeira Beach owns to the water. They can do this at any time. And it's, according to that, everybody's got the private beach. And that's what's happened at the place right next door. So we have no beach. So Madeira Beach is all privately owned, according to what they found. Thank you. And I have an email that you guys all had, but could I come up and read that to put it in from somebody else that wanted to be here, and they had an email about the properties and that stuff.
You have 4 minutes for your public comment. $3.50.
This is an email from Mary Pendergast, who sent to you guys and that. The recent findings of the ownership of the beach area in front of Caddy's makes no sense. I'm referring to properties located in Book 21, page 23 and 24, recorded February 17, 1937. The Beach Flower property on the other side of Kitty Stewart lot recorded a new deed in July of 23 to show their property goes down to the water line. This deed does state that no title search was conducted. The Beach Club, located next to the Beach Flower, is part of the Parsley Survey from 1937. The Beach Club property description says they own down to the water line, guessing referring to how it was noted in 1937 deed. So in Pinellas County Appraiser's site, it shows their property going a few feet into the sand, such as it appears on the 1937 survey. The Caddy's lot that is part of the survey for second edition to Gulf Shores, completed February 17, 1937, when the Parsleys own the land, states that they dedicate to the public all streets, alleys, and public spaces as noted on the survey. Beach Flower, Caddy's, nor the Beach Club lots show that they include beach based on the measurements listed on the survey. The recorded lots of second add to Gulf Shores have been available to everyone since 1937. Why is it now showing that these properties own down to the high tide mean line? I'm surprised that this has been questioned before. There have been several owners of these lots, and I would imagine that some have had loans in order to purchase the lots, which would have required a mandatory title search by their lender. And the fact these properties do own to the high tide line, why has it taken almost 100 years for this information to be available? Has the interpretation changed? Does this mean the city did not have the correct information when making the decision to allow a business on the residential lot? The city didn't have the correct information. When adding restrictions to the liquor license, I believe the city attorney was working for the city when the original restaurant was approved. And when the liquor license restrictions were applied, is he the appropriate legal representation when representing the current potential changes? Do the residents have any rights since these areas have customary usage and the beach for more than 100 years? Now that it has been declared the Caddy owns down to the mean high tide line, it seems odd that the explanation from the city attorney would be that the beach must have grown and were the original options for the city. Could they request the state claim the land? Were you given all their options? Is the interpretation correct when the survey on the beach club doesn't show the same thing, yet is part of the same original survey? How is that possible? The beach is considered wetlands, and according to the Beach Flowers information, that additional ownership of the beach is valued at $1,000. So basically, owning the beach doesn't incur any type of additional taxes. The listed values in the tax record are for the building lot and building only. As I am sure you are aware, the residents are fearful that they will lose the beaches and they have been accustomed to using for over 100 years. None of this makes any sense. I think the residents deserve a more informed explanation. I also think the city of Madera Beach should have a better understanding of this issue because it's going to come up again and again, as you see from the above information. It makes no sense.
Mr. Dillon.
Thank you for your attention. I realize that you were not in office at the time of previous approvals and now have to deal with this issue. Thank you. And that was an email that you all should have gotten from Mary Pendergast.
Do we have any additional public comments?
Tom Edwards, District 1 resident. I believe you received a copy of my my letter to you all concerning this, and I agree with Mr. Trask's analysis based upon what the attorney said. If you have a private beach, you could put chairs out there. And the question that Mr. Carnes brought up, that, you know, if someone goes ahead and buys food or beverage, can they walk out and then sit in the chairs? I think that needs to be addressed, and I don't think they have the right. And again, Ms. Portal was very clear that in condition 2, the restaurant and associated activity will be located on existing impervious surface within the approved plan area inside the coastal construction and will not impede the surrounding dunes and beaches. It's going to be associated activity. You're not going to be able to buy beverages and food and carry it out to the beach because that's an associated activity and it's not on the existing impervious surface. And I think Mr. Trask may want to give you an opinion on that or do further research on that. And when Mr. Onks, their attorney, did his presentation and the issue came up, and, you know, he says, there won't be any takeout to the beach. There may be takeout to home, but not takeout to the beach. That's a quote that he said. And you can go ahead and look at the video again, but he specifically said that, and he agreed to the conditions that was presented. His client was sitting there, Mr. Winters, they agreed to the conditions. So I also interpret that it could mean you can't take self-service out to the beach. And I think that's the issue right now that you have to decide. The only way they can get to the beach is they've got to carry it out through Kitty Stewart Park walkway because of the dunes and everything that's there. If we're not allowing self-service and food deliveries to come and deliver through the parks, then why are we allowing these people to do that? The other thing is, as Ms. Porter brought out, if you're putting existing chairs out there, now you're increasing the capacity. So she said that that could affect parking and traffic and restroom capacity, and it has to be recalculated. And when you go apply for a permit, you give the alcoholic beverage people a site plan. This is where I'm going to sell alcoholic beverages and serve. And that's only on the impervious surface. They don't have anything that it goes out to the beach. So I think you please need to go ahead and get a legal opinion on this. And if they do move forward with sending service out there and the commission decides that they can't do that, then I think you need to consider whether you go ahead and say that they're not living up to the standards that the city set and go after their alcohol permit, which you have the right to do.
Do we have any additional public comment?
Good evening. Dan Kramer, 14010 Gulf Boulevard. I think we have a situation that can be used for taxation on there. Before, it appears, if I understood it correctly, that Caddy's actually owns a parcel of land where they have their building and also the beach. Before, they were allowing use of that property, okay, but for public use. Now, if they want to be using that property, shouldn't we taxing that square footage as part of their parcel? Is that legal? I don't know, but it sounds like that's what they've been very nice, not having people on the beach, and other locations and condos in the area have not been restricting people to come onto the beach. If they start claiming ownership, then I have ownership of a parcel. I pay taxes on that parcel. If my parcel automatically doubles, for whatever reason, I'm not sure I understand 1937, even I wasn't born then, that maybe we should be taxing that property, and maybe that's how we get around this. Otherwise, we're not going to have a public beach. The second thing, if I have another 2 minutes, is that since we brought up the alcohol beverage license, and we've been talking about various sections of it on there, if you read section 1, it talks about an audit that should be done, and I'm going to say, let's say every calendar year, that has to be at least 60% of their caddies of revenue from the restaurant and bar operation. Basically, that license considers that as section 1. So we should have, I believe, from our BOC regular meeting of February 10th of 2021, do we have that? Is that public knowledge or available for that audit for the fiscal year, or I think calendar year 21, calendar year 22, and calendar year 23? Have they been basically living up to what was part of section 1 of their proposal? Thank you. And I love Madeira Beach.
Do we have any further public comment?
Linda Kramer, 14010 Gulf Boulevard. Question regarding a little bit of that. What he was talking about was the 60% of sales has to come from food. You know, is that actually being audited and complied with? We don't know. The other thing is, when we see, because we live right there, and we're already seeing, the chairs are already out. They've already contracted with a chair company, and chairs are, then they're renting chairs and getting income from their chair rental. I would assume somebody's getting income from a chair rental, are out there. That's fine, but the question is, we're already seeing people taking out food from caddies directly out to the beach. You know, we've had issues with noise and the music blaring where you can't even hear, you can't even talk to the person next to you. You know, and you know, to me, I think we should, you know, all that we're left to do is to call the sheriff's office, which is really, in my opinion, not appropriate to bother the sheriff's office when there's, you know, a noise thing, or who do we call if we see service on the beach? Who do we call when we see the trash? I mean, what do residents do when they see that there's a breach in some of these agreements? And that's something we don't know, because every time we call the sheriff, well, there's no noise ordinance. Well, we can't do this. And, And I understand that, but it leaves no recourse for breach of contract potentially. And who do you contact and what are the consequences if there is a breach?
Any additional public comment? With no more public comment, I know that some of the items that were brought up by the residents, Robin can answer some of those questions because I'm sure if we don't already know the answers, we want to.
Right, well,
Although we're not voting on anything and
No,
we
there's
don't
no
get
vote,
any
just
say, but
discussion.
I know when we met this week, you clarified a few things to me about the alcohol and food consumption, and that would be relevant information, I think, to share.
I think there's several things. First of all, if there is noise, and there was noise when they had a band playing and then they had a DJ, and so that was communicated. And if that does happen, by all means, please call the sheriff. You can call the non-emergency line, and explain what you're hearing. And so they've been pretty good. Caddy's has been pretty good about stopping. I don't believe they've had a live band. I don't think they have recently. I think they've had a DJ periodically. And yes, we did. I think we had someone within the last month call and say the music was too loud at the DJ. So we've addressed that with the deputies. You shouldn't be able to hear it if you're down where the lady that just spoke. I live near there. I shouldn't be hearing their music if I'm over on Palm Street on the other side. There's no reason for it, but that's, I think, not a gigantic issue. I think there were more issues with construction, et cetera, recently. In terms of I will say in terms of the public beach, the beach will always remain public. I pulled this up on the big screen because as you go up and down our beach, almost every property there's an exception as you go south of 140th, where you see the dunes, most of the property lines do extend out into the sand. And some of these have changed recently, not just Caddy's, but also Beach Flower, their two parcels. They were not previously down to the mean high water line. But as you go up and down our beach, and I know this may be, you have to look at it a little closer from a distance, but most of these do go down to on the sand. I've been here 2 years and 6 months. I've never had a problem going up and down the sand, with only one exception, and that would be at the two locations, the County Park and Archibald Park, where those two concessionaires place their umbrellas and chairs out there. One concessionaire at the County Park goes out early in the morning and starts drilling and putting the umbrellas. So I've seen people get there before they get out there to claim their space. Anybody is you're legally within our rights to do that. I've even had people ask me. I said, by all means, if you want to get out there at 6 a.m., go wherever you want to go. At Archibald Park, they don't do the same process, with exceptions during the busier times, holiday weekends. They will go out and they will put the chairs, and then when people come and rent the chairs, so that's the only instances, other than during a storm, where the public cannot walk up and down our 2 miles of wonderful white sandy beach. The issue about the sand accretion, and when the city installed the beach growings, that's when the sand began to grow. Those are documents that I've read. Our clerk provided some history on the beach growings recently. That's what began to the sand to accrete. I will tell you, I've had multiple residents make the same comments. My property line goes down to the water line, but the property appraiser did not show that. Those plats, as City Attorney Trask stated, from the 1930s, do say that the property line is to the Gulf waters. The Gulf waters are now a couple hundred feet away from where they were in the 1930s or whenever that occurred. So what do we have now? I think I'm not sure where we go from here, because from my perspective, the beach should be completely public to walk up and down. Whether it's owned privately, it is sand, and that's really where the state should probably say, yeah, everything is public, and then you can work out whether you can, whatever services can go on there. But that's really what should happen. In terms of taking alcohol and food, we actually have both, well, one of our concessionaires that we have an agreement with, and similarly, I mean, they've done nothing wrong, I'm not stating that, but people will walk up and purchase and then walk out to the sand. That's been happening at Caddy's just as it has at the Snack Shack. It is well known that we allow alcohol to go on our beach on the sand. So how do we address whether they can or cannot? There is no, from my knowledge, I don't believe there's any language stating that you cannot go to the Snack Shack and then walk out with it. However, and Tom can correct me, but the alcoholic beverage permits are consumption on premise. So I believe you're not allowed to take, if you order an alcoholic beverage, and then walk out of the premise with it. I think that's more of a legal question than anything. But there are conditions for Caddies that did stipulate that all the activity will be within the impervious surface, all restaurant activity. Mr. Trask can opine, but from my perspective, that means I cannot go in there and order and then take it out to the beach. How do you prevent that from happening is another question back to the resident's comment. We can certainly, per your direction, but it's a little bit complicated because people take, thousands of pounds of food literally onto the beach every day that they purchase somewhere else. I think the issue in front of us is losing, or residents and visitors losing the ability to kind of use sand that has been available for decades.
Mayor, can I jump in? So there's a couple things I wanted to answer, some questions that were raised. I want to address some issues too that Robin has briefly touched on. If you're asking me my legal opinion, can someone buy food or alcohol from Caddies and walk out onto the private beach property that I've mentioned and is shown in the survey? The answer is no, absolutely not. They cannot do that. What happens if they do that? Well, it's a violation of the conditions set forth in the alcoholic beverage permit. So we have options, and that is one option is to bring a code enforcement action. One option is to revoke the alcoholic beverage permit. But obviously, they are the ones that have to monitor that. It is not the city's responsibility to monitor their compliance with the required conditions. So they will have to do that. They will have to make sure that that's not happening. Whether it's, stationing an employee out there on the sand to make sure, that's what they'll have to determine. So I think I've answered the question that was raised by Mr. Edwards and Mr. Dillon. I also wanted to talk about this email that came from Ms. Pendergrast, Mary. It's all good and great to make all sorts of assumptions based upon non-factual legal information. She did what she had available and reviewed certain things that are available to the public on the property appraiser's website, which sometimes will lead you to a deed. But that's not what I did. I did not do a title search on every property along the beach. I did a title search on Caddies, so I can't really respond other than to say the information in her email is not factual because of the fact that there was no title search done for that particular property that she's talking about other than Caddies. She mentions the fact that there was no title search done. So I don't know how you would want to rely upon that information as being accurate. The other thing, we had a speaker come up and say, well, why don't we tax this property? Well, I can tell you with regard to Caddies and the beach parcel that we've been talking about tonight, that is a recorded deed. And they have been paying taxes on that, or should have been paying taxes on that, since they took ownership to it. And that would have been prior to 2021. So that's already happening. I don't know what the value is and how much it really means, but it is a recorded deed, and the property appraiser should be aware of that, and the tax collector should be collecting taxes on it. The last question that I wrote a note on is alcohol versus food. That really was not something that I was researching. It is a condition. It is a requirement that they submit an annual audit to the city for review. I assume they're doing that. If they're not,
They did. Jenny, we received the one for 23.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me,
Yeah,
but I
I think
believe so.
we did receive it, and it was more than 60% was food, and I think it was
It
61.5%
was really close.
was food, and the rest was alcohol. So we did receive the report, at least for the most recent year. We'll ask for the prior 2 years.
Yeah, I think that we have 2022 and 2023, but I don't have it in front of me, so.
so they do have the legal obligation to provide
Yes.
that. It is not something that we need to ask for. They should be providing it. So we can make that available to the public if the public is interested on that. So I think that I answered the 4 or 5 questions that were raised. But I'd be happy to take any direction, do any further research, or provide any additional information that's being requested.
Commissioners?
I'll be happy to answer Mr. Carnes' questions after the meeting.
I've watched the February 10th, 2021 BOC meeting. I could watch it again and again and probably still continue to pick up items. But I will, let me back up. I will start that Mr. Winters, Marcus Winters, the owner, or I'm sure it's a group of ownership, but he would have the majority, is a highly respected person in the community, business person in the community. During this meeting, COVID was happening, and the then city manager read emails for a bit, and Mr. Winters was endorsed by Robin Miller with the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber, as well as being endorsed by Barry Rubin with the Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber. So as far as Mr. Winters' integrity, I don't challenge that. What I do challenge is the spirit of the agreement. And I believe that by putting chairs on the beach, whether it's public, private, I'm not going to get into that argument, where, you know, his property ends. But if you want to put chairs out there, what's the incentive for a business? Okay, you have the chair rental. That's one, I guess. And I'm kind of going around in circle here a little bit, but you know, during this whole presentation, Linda Portal stated many reasons why the restrictions for chairs on the beach was so important. And she referenced noise and trash and the turtles being receptive to not only light, but to the additional noise during their season laying eggs. And it all goes down to the spirit of the agreement. The spirit of the agreement was, we're not going to have any chairs out on the beach. And I call on Mr. Winters to acknowledge that spirit. To what Mr. Edwards was stating, an hour and 22 minutes into the meeting, I think it's Brian Alxt is the attorney, and he said publicly that, well, I'll read it, and I'm reading the transcript from YouTube. so it's going to start in the middle of a sentence. But with those conditions that Ms. Portal handed out as revised, particular number 9, to say public beach, recognizing that if we do any portion of the beach, that we could put chairs out there, but that we won't serve out there, so service will be limited to the restaurant. It won't be a concession, so there won't be any takeout to the beach. This is Caddy's attorney speaking. There may be takeout to home, but not takeout to the beach. And then the only other thing, again, Mr. Mayor, just to reiterate, I just don't know if we can commit to number 12. So he goes on to other conditions on the beach. If you can't take beverages or food out to the beach, I wonder, as a business person, is the chair rental, the activity that you're looking for, is the goodwill that you've earned over the years worth that chair rental business? If it's monitored and it is found, whether it's something that Caddy's does knowingly or not, if they take food and/or beverages out to the beach, they would be violating the alcohol license. And I don't know that makes sense, that you want to jeopardize your alcohol license for something that you may not have control of, you may not even consider. So it's totally, I haven't heard one resident speak that they're fine with the chairs on the beach. We visited the Caddies and Sunset Beach. It is quite a different environment. It's if that's the environment you're looking for, it can be found at the Caddies in Sunset Beach. But I think it goes against the spirit of the agreement. And that's enough said. Thank you.
In 2021, Caddies was given the liquor license with the condition of number 2, no chairs or tables on a public beach, or no food or service on their part of the beach. This is an open discussion this evening. I'd really like to know how many tables are we talking about? Could we come to a compromise with Mr. Winters and Caddies as far as maybe a 6-month to a 9-month probationary period to see how it goes? If not, the bottom line is he can still have his chairs and tables out there. Unfortunately, I just don't see him being able to serve any food or beverage out there.
Just to clarify, it's chairs and umbrellas. Yeah, no tables. Thanks.
I think that we're not here to vote on whether or not they can put chairs and umbrellas on the beach. I can appreciate everyone's comments that they've had and opinions about the situation. I think that there are guidelines they have to follow, and if they follow them, then it will be fine. If they don't, that's a conversation for a different day. I don't feel comfortable sitting up here saying I know what they're going to do and not giving them the opportunity. We can't keep them from putting the chairs on the beach, correct?
Correct.
So it's not a matter of us making a decision or a compromise or anything. Caddies does do a lot for the community. They're a great support of a lot of activities that go on in our city. And I think you have to give them the benefit of the doubt and see what they do. And then if it is terrible, that's a whole nother conversation for a different day. Any more conversation? With that, we will move on to impact fees.
right, and Mr. Murphy is not here, but we did include the quote that we talked about at the last BOC workshop. You can find that on, starting on page 236 of the packet. I also included the Chapter 92, the proportionate shared development fee, which is our impact fees in our code. I also included the Pinellas County impact fee. I know we briefly talked about that last workshop as well, and just how they have that broken up into square footage as well as use as a potential outcome. But really, we wanted to bring the quote before BOC and discuss that if y'all wanted to move forward or talk more about impact fees.
Do we have any public comment on impact fees? Commission?
I'll start on this one since I brought this to everyone's attention and disrupted the whole program. I guess my point of contention is, and I think I followed up with an email to Jenny and the city manager after our last meeting. And it has to do with density, basically. The residential property next to Caddy's was torn down. There was 2 homes there. It was torn down and they're building 8. That's an impact. A single-family home wanting to, a 3-bedroom, 3-bath that raises FEMA to FEMA standards, guidelines, and instead of a apartment-sized kitchen that was in the previous home, they want a large kitchen with an island with an open living space, and they want an office. That didn't increase density. That didn't increase an impact to the community. If that home goes from 2,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet, I don't believe that homeowner should be penalized for improving the neighborhood. And I believe that is an improvement to the neighborhood. They need to be encouraged to do that. If you tear down a duplex and all of a sudden you turn that into 6 dwelling units, well, that's increased density. That's increased 4 new families that have just moved into the neighborhood. That's what we should be concerned about. A new condo, we tear down a 2-story, 3-story condo and put a 5-story condo in because that's what the height limits are now, and it just makes good business sense because the old structure was 50, 60, 80 years old, who knows? And the maintenance costs, now that could be considered residential, but it's increasing density. It's increasing the number of families that are using the services from the city. So that's my point. I'll leave it at that.
Eddie? Commissioner McGeehan, do you have any comment?
Well, the bottom line is, Madeira Beach we're trying to bring in full-time residents in right now. As everyone knows, the amount of people that live here currently, full-time has declined. The impact fee subject is something that a lot of people are on the fence about. I agree with a lot of what Commissioner Kerr said. If there's going to be a building that's going to be torn down and brought up, and it's going to increase the density, then of course, an impact fee is required. Residential neighborhoods where someone's trying to tear down their their house and build up again to improve the neighborhood, I don't understand why they should be charged an impact fee. So that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
I was on the Planning Commission when impact fees became a topic of discussion. I do not recall, and I could not find it today, how much we paid for that study for impact fees, but it was quite a bit of money. And there was a lot of discussion on whether or not we should have impact fees, we shouldn't have impact fees. At that time, as I recall, the impact fees for commercial and residential went hand in hand. That is what we did. I disagree that when someone goes from 2,000 to 3,000 square foot, there is an impact on the city. There's an impact on the construction that goes on there, the trucks that are on the road that are hauling in the equipment, that are driving up and down the roads. There is impact. And so the impact fee, there is an impact to it. Our impact fee for residential, as we demonstrated in the previous meeting when we discussed it, is rather small. It's not an exorbitant amount. And, you know, the reference was if you went from 2,000 to 4,000 square feet and you increased your home by 2,000 square feet and your impact fee was going to be it was either $11,000, $12,000, or $13,000, you're going into a 4,000 square foot house. You're only paying impact fees on the additional square footage you're adding. My concern today would be, because we can all disagree, it was voted on by Planning Commission and the commissioners at the time to push through the impact fees. This quote is $30,000 for him to, or for a study to be completed to tell us what impact fees would be if we went only to residential or only to commercial and pulled out the residential. I think $30,000 is a considerable amount of money to consider spending for a study that we've already paid for in the past, and that two separate commissions, a planning commission and a sitting set of commissioners, voted to pass through and make part of our fee schedule.
Open discussion and disagreement, you know, we don't have to be on the same page. That's what makes us great.
That is correct. We absolutely do not.
You tear down your existing home and you rebuild a home, you have permit fees. So for a 3,000 square foot home, what's roughly, have any idea?
I don't know the permit fees, but I could tell you, we have the impact fees up. So
Okay.
yeah, we could do that.
You do it all the time. I just thought maybe it would be. I'm
Yeah, I think a permit
Marcy-
fee,
Marcy
Marcy
would
might know
know.
better.
Marcy could answer probably.
I'm guessing
a little
about
better.
14,000.
It's 2% the value of the permit, so whatever the value of the work is, it's a percentage of that. So-
okay, and
Well, we
right
could
now
look at the average.
Average is about 700,000 roughly, or that might be a little
well, we
high.
just saw it in our budget.
Yeah. It
In our budget
was
meeting, an average was
1,000,000.
1.2.
One
What was
point.
it?
1.2. Yep.
So Andrew,
Yeah, new home construction was the 1.2.
Over the two years average, that list of 15 homes or whatever it was
So it's
average of
24,000
1.2. So that's 24,000
for the permit.
just for the permit. So we're double dipping because so for that same 3,000 square foot, let's say you started with a 2,000 square foot home and now you made it 3,000, what's the additional impact fee?
Right now, the total, and remember, this will go up in October. For the
Well, give me
impact.
October, nobody's going to build one before that.
So it's $6.99, so like $7 per square,
Okay.
per additional square.
Per additional
foot.
square
So if it's
foot.
1,000 square feet, it's $6,990.
Right, so you have another 7,000 on top of the, what did
For
we,
impact
what did
fees.
we say was the permit fee?
14,000.
14,000. So you have 50% of the permit fee as a penalty for improving your home. I think that's outrageous. Because again, I don't feel if there's any impact from trucks or whatever on the streets, that's part of the permit fee. I don't see it an additional, and if this study, both of us was in the planning commission at the time, that impact fee was not justified by usage of the, the heavy trucks on the road or whatever. It had to do with city services. The recreation, the utilities, I'm not that good, I'm getting old. All the different mobility.
Public safety. Public safety.
Public safety. Oh, you have it all up there, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, mobility, kind of transportation related.
Yeah. So again, it's not an impact on culture, it's not an impact on recreation, it's not an impact on mobility, it's not an impact on public safety. I want to encourage every single family home to raise their home. FEMA wants to do the same thing. If you flood, they want to give you a grant for $200,000 based on you meet all their conditions, and we don't, and that's a whole another discussion within the city whether we want to do that. But I would say it's a counter impact because we're relieving the stress on the fire and the EMS when we flood, when we have hurricanes. So I don't see it. We agree to disagree.
It's okay. You want to spend $30,000 to do a study on impact fees. That is, I mean, it's $30,000 to get a study on impact fees, and you bring up the cost of permits. I can't disagree. They're expensive. So is the argument impact fees, or not argument, but is the discussion impact fees or permit fees?
The discussion is, before you put the first wall up, by the time you pay your permit fees and impact fees, and if out here in the on the island in the city, you need to do engineering studies, you need to do pilings. Before you put the first wall up, you're six figures, you're over $100,000. Before you, that's why the cost of a home is on average $1.2 million. If it was an extra couple $100, it's just not justified. It's just, it's a penalty, and I don't see how the penalty is justified. So anyway, back to the $30,000, it wasn't done correctly in the beginning because I brought up the idea multiple times during the discussion in the Planning Commission. The whole reason we're talking about this is because we're building these condos on 150th. We all in this area, we're adding structures that are going to impact culture, recreation, mobility, public safety. Why is the burden of all that falling on the residents? And I understand there's tons of permits and there's lots of cost to build these structures, don't get me wrong. But that was the argument from the residents that even brought it to the Planning Commission for consideration. And if I recall correctly, it was $100,000 to do that study, or to have Jerry work through and actually pull it all together, but that was covered by a grant. Is there a grant for this? I don't know. I just don't, it's a fairness thing. I just don't think it's fair. We want to encourage current residents to stay here and be able to decide to rebuild. That's the bottom line. We can't elevate our roads until we get our homes elevated. It's all a building block. And I don't know that my mind can be changed.
Commissioner McGeehan, do you have anything additional?
Real quick, if you look at the impact fee fund, through, back when we were looking at the workshop earlier, as far as our budget, the amount of money that was budgeted for the impact fee fund doesn't seem like it was that, a lot of money. Do you remember how much money that was? The impact fee fund?
How much revenues?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it here.
I think we're budgeting 185,000 in revenues for the impact fee fund for FY '25.
And the majority of that's coming from the residential
Yes.
impact fees, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So my point is, the majority of it is coming from residential and not commercial. I personally believe that we need to, talk more about this impact fee, what we're doing with the money, and also, can we change it here and there just a little bit? And that's for future discussions. Thank you.
I'll just add real quick. Robin did share a graph of or an Excel spreadsheet of the funds that we have received, and I would say 90%, 95% of that was from residents, because the commercial structures were already approved, planned, permitted, whatever, so they couldn't be impacted. So we're only looking at commercial structures that are not on the books yet.
And then a majority of our permits are single-family homes.
Single-family homes.
Residential.
So it's counterproductive to what was originally intended, and that's my point.
Next on the agenda is Public Works. It is the restroom purchase ADA trailer.
So Mayor and Commissioners, Ms. Wepfer comes up to the podium. This item is related to the construction of the restrooms at Archibald Park, and during the construction renovations of the restrooms, we will need temporary restrooms, and as we researched, we realized the cost exceeded $30,000, or would exceed $30,000, so we issued a bid.
Good evening again. That is correct, as Robin stated. So we have to have restroom facilities at Archibald Park with hot water for the concession stand. We provide those restrooms for the employees. So the option to rent porta potties, it will not work over there. So we initially reached out to multiple different vendors to rent a restroom trailer for a 6-month period at least, and that exceeded $50,000 just for the rental. So then we decided to release an invitation to bid. We received 3 submittals. So what you have in your packet is those 3 submittals. The restroom trailer that I would recommend that we proceed with, as you see in the submittal, the specs that it has included over exceeds what I had initially requested. That exceeds, has a water tank on it. So this gives us the option to not only spend $56,900 for just that 6-month period, but then moving forward for events and whatnot, we will have a facility that we don't have to spend money on portable restrooms. So this will have the option to have a freshwater tank so we can fully use it without having any hookups. So over at the soccer fields, over at the Madeira Beach Fundamental, at the Grunt Hunt, at different various events over at Rock Park. So the new toilet is also on Sourcewell, so technically I didn't even have to go out to bid, but I wasn't able to find that information until they submitted the submittals. So everything is in there for you to see. You'll see that that restroom trailer goes above and beyond. It has, it might be a little too fancy, but I've spoken to the owner, I've asked about warranties. That warranty far exceeded what I had initially requested. I only requested 1 year for warranty for all. This has 5 years on certain parts, so it's 5 years on the, sorry, let me find my spot. 5 years on the, on the parts and components, 20 years on the structure, and all interior components made by their company is lifetime. So the restroom trailer that we have at Tom and Kitty Stewart Park has a different layout. We had to modify that ramp significantly for an expense over $7,000 to make it actually ADA. That also is not easily movable. So this feature is much easier for us to utilize. I'm here for any questions.
Do we have any public comment?
Tom Edwards, District 1. Having worked numerous hurricane events and Hurricane Andrew, where the city was completely devastated down there, having something like this where you have workers coming in from outside and you're going to be doing things with cutting trees, open up roads and things like that, if you take this off the island and then can bring it back, it would certainly be useful to the workers that are doing hurricane cleanup and taking care of power lines and things like that. So I think it would be a benefit to the city.
Any additional public comment?
Chuck Dillon, it looks like the one that I believe that you chose looks similar to Tom and Kitty Stewart, and maybe can they swap out the air conditioner?
Any additional public comment? Commissioners?
Did I see in here somewhere about stainless steel? It's not stainless, is it?
The framing is all steel. There are stainless steel sinks and all the.
Okay, the structure itself is
Correct.
steel.
It's all metal. Yes, that was one of the requirements in the bid.
Okay, so the air conditioner, I was going to bring that up before we had public comment.
That is the second air conditioner that was installed on that restroom trailer, and it died within a year.
What is the warranty on this one?
On this air conditioner,
Yeah.
on this facility, on this,
Yeah.
a minimum of 5 years.
Sweet.
Correct, yes. The other one, the bathroom trailer at Tom and Kitty Stewart Park, the whole restroom trailer, I think, was less than a year.
Yeah, the corrosion here is just crazy.
Absolutely.
I love the idea. It makes perfect sense. I appreciate all the work you put into it. Now we just need to get you a building that you can store it in when it's not in use.
Yes, and to the comment, we do take items when we have an evacuation. We have an agreement with Seminole where we take all of our equipment off the island. This would be one of those.
Perfect.
Mr. McGeehan?
How much are the regular porta potties?
I do not have that number for you, but Jay rents them quite often. He might have that answer for you.
To find out real quick
Yeah,
how much.
the price of renting just a
price of
regular
renting.
portalet like we use
Regular
for,
portalets?
I'm thinking for like the seafood festival where we have,
It's
what, about
quite
100?
expensive.
Yeah, we pay, it's,
Anytime that I've had an issue with a restroom, we've had to rent at least 3 just to make sure there's 2 regular and an ADA. It's a minimum of $500 just for a couple days.
Well, yeah, and that's
quite
what I'm getting
expensive.
at is that down the road, this is going to more than pay for itself.
Oh, absolutely. It will more than pay for itself with the project of Archibald.
And especially with, recently we had the fast pitch softball, and a lot of families, a lot of really nice families coming in, giving them the option of this, where they can actually wash their hands and how many stalls? There's 3 stalls in there?
There's 1 ADA, and then there are 2 single stalls. One of the stalls will have a urinal and a toilet.
Oh, so, so far, I'm all for
Same
it.
as the one at Kitty Stewart, but this one is a little bit bigger.
And it's great because we have so many, Jay knows and you know that we have so many events throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
It's totally portable, and I think that it's a great idea so far.
Thank you.
What? Okay.
I agree. Thank you.
One more
I think
comment.
that'd be great.
Does Collier know we're buying this?
No, they don't. This is actually included in on the cost of the Archibald restroom project.
I understand that.
No, they don't. This was kind of a last minute as we're pre-planning for the project because we're getting ready to release the bid soon.
Could you
So-
bring it to their attention?
I sure can, yep. See if there's any offset costs that we can retract. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looks like for the seafood festival 2 years ago, we paid almost 7,000. And then last year it was like 6,600. I don't know how many portables we get, 50 or 6? No, more than that.
Yeah, that cost only went down because we rented fewer.
Yeah.
They actually were more expensive per unit. But, just off the top of my head, you guys mentioned the softball tournaments. There are some fishing tournaments out here. I don't know that we would necessarily use it for that, but we have some others, some other smaller city events, as well as all of our soccer programming you see over at the school. We rent a portal year-round over there, and they absolutely detest that thing, as you can imagine. But it gets expensive. It sits out there and gets cleaned over and over and over and over. And, so this would definitely be something that.
Oh, we're going to have fireworks on the 3rd. How quick can you get it here?
The bid says within 90 days of initial PO. But
Sorry.
this will not be used at events until the Archibald is
project is-
completed. Yeah, so we probably wouldn't be able to use it for Seafood Fest this coming year unless whomever the builder is, whenever we get those bids back, is able to magically throw it up really quick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the only other thing is, we discussed talking about residents that come up for discussion prior to the meeting. Mike came up and wanted us to do something with the state about insurance. I think that we could do a good update legislatively about insurance. I know that Representative Cheney spoke about that today at the Big C, about insurance, and that might be something we could have on a agenda to discuss, get an update and discuss and see where the state is at for the residents. Your thoughts?
I would agree. I'm delinquent in getting the letter together that I had promised regarding the homestead. Maybe we can roll that into that.
To insurance.
And then, as a piece of, what I call the Homestead Relief Act or bill or whatever, conversation.
So do we want to have that on our next workshop to talk about insurance and homestead? And
Sure,
see-
we can, and I'll work to try to draft a preliminary something, but I still work full-time, so I'll try.
Robin, do you have anything further?
No, thank you very much. Good discussion. Thank you.
Then it is 8:03. We are adjourned.